Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Tapping into Life podcast. I am your host, Matthew B., and it is so good to see each and every one of you back for episode 4. We are 4 episodes, and I am so excited to be here with you for another episode of the podcast. I hope each and every one of you are doing well. I hope each and every one of you are having a productive day, whether you're off, whether you're at work, whether you're about to be off, um, whether you just chilling. It is so good to know that you're taking the time to make you a better you. It is so wonderful. Um, I am here on today's podcast to talk about, as you see in the topic, we're doing a mental health check. Um, this is very, very, very important to me. I know it's very important to a lot of people in regard to the mental health check. Um, and this is something that we really, really do need to talk about. But before I go on any further, please like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, share. The next 3 episodes, this one included, will be very, very, very important. So I hope each and every one of you just take the time to share and just develop some conversations that you can have with somebody about mental health and the issues and the good parts about mental health and the bad parts about mental health. And we're going to just go down, and it's a 3-part episode. So I won't be combining all of this topic in one episode because it's a lot. And I think we need to go into some in-depth details about it. So, sit back. I hope you have a snack, a drink, or something, and let's get started. This episode, the topic is mental health check. I hope each and every one of you are doing well. And this is just a moment to just relax yourself from a hard week of work, a hard day at work, and just breathe. Just breathe. Just breathe in and breathe out. Just breathe and relax yourself. All right. And we're going to get into it. So I'm going to explain, the first thing I'm going to explain is why is mental health so important? Why is checking in on our mental health so important? And the reason why it's so important is it is important because it gives us the opportunity to assess ourselves and the complete entirety of ourselves as it pertains to us, to you. So the time you take to assess your mental health and to check in on you pertains to you. It doesn't pertain to our parents. It doesn't pertain to our kids. It doesn't pertain to our friends. It pertains to each and every one of you, our own individual selves, right? One point I would like to make is, and the reason, before I go into the next point, the reason why I chose this, I'm going to tell you, it was a lot to get to this podcast episode. When I tell y'all, it was a lot. It was a lot. And the reason why it was a lot was because everything that happened really, really related to this episode and the next couple of episodes after this, right? So I was actually supposed to tape the podcast yesterday. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to get up. I'm going to tape this episode. I'm going to tape the next episode. I'm going to tape all 3 episodes regarding to the mental health check. And so I get started. I'm like, okay, well, first let me go do a Walmart run because I had to get some things to cook for dinner, and I didn't want to go out after a certain time. So, it's my day off, So I got back from Walmart. I'm setting up, And I tell y'all, everything that could possibly gone wrong in doing a podcast, everything happened except for the Wi-Fi going out or the power going out. Everything happened. So I'm setting up and I'm like, okay, I set up the exact same when I'm doing these podcasts. Every single day, I set up the exact same. Every day I do a podcast episode. And for some reason, everything went left. It went, the lighting wasn't right. And I'm like, I use the same lighting. I use a ring light on one side, and then there's a light above me and on the ceiling. Like, this helps me, produce the lighting. I set up everything exactly the same. And for some reason, I just saw so much that it just irritated me. So I'm like, I'm getting frustrated, and I'm like, oh my God, I just want to do this podcast. That's all I want to do. Is just do the podcast. Just do the podcast for the people, because I don't have a pre-recorded episode that would, I didn't have an episode set up and scheduled to go. So I'm like, okay, well, I normally put it out on Tuesdays, and I want to, that's not an official day that I want to, that the podcast will happen and it will air, but I wanted to make sure that it at least be done by Tuesday, ready to go. So I'm sitting on Monday freaking out because the lighting is messed up. Things didn't want to act right. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I was thinking about wearing a hat on my head because I hadn't shaved my head and my hair was growing back, and I didn't want everybody to see my hairline. And I was just freaking out about so much. And I'm like, this is not working. This is, I'm not feeling it. This is not working. I'm freaking out. And in the midst of all of this, God was like, you've been doing a lot of work this week. You haven't had a chance to rest. Your anxiety is going up. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't rest. I didn't woosah, because I work, and then like I get 2 days off, and my first day I'm always resting. I don't do nothing. I do absolutely nothing. It's my me time to recuperate mentally, to recuperate spiritually, emotionally, and physically. But I didn't take that day to do that. So in the midst of all of that, my anxiety is going up, and I'm like, okay, let me pull back. As much as I want to do this podcast and I want to get it done today, I just had to pull back. So I end up not doing it. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it tomorrow. I'm going to make sure I do it tomorrow. And in the midst of it, so this morning, literally this morning, one of my coworkers had called me. He's the assistant general manager at the hotel, one of the hotels that I oversee. And he was saying, hold on, I got to get my laptop charger. Okay, so he was saying, you want to see, you want to know exactly how the day is going. And I'm like, mind you, I was still asleep. And I'm like, oh my God, not really, but go ahead. And he was saying, well, the laundry's backed up. The laundry was backed up. You only got one dryer working. Yeah, we know that already. And then one housekeeper didn't show up. I tried to replace that person with another housekeeper. That second housekeeper had sprained her arm. And I'm like, okay, this is just, I just want to be great. I just want to have this day to do the podcast and relax. I got some other stuff around the house I have to do. I just want to be great. I just want to be productive. I just want to get stuff done, because throughout the week, I really don't, once I get home, I'm just relaxing myself, and I really don't have time to really do what I need to do as far as everything outside of my job. And so Uh, then he says, on top of that, the QA auditor is here. So I'm like, oh my God, are you freaking kidding me? They're really there. First of all, it hadn't even been 6 months because this hotel brand, they do their audit every 6 months. And so I'm like, it's only been 3 months. We literally just had one 3 months ago. What are you talking about? And, he was like, yeah, they're there. They're here at the property. They about to start their walkthrough, and we need you here. Okay, let me get myself together. So I shot on up there, and I don't know the end result of the audit. A lot of stuff that we were supposed to get done, we had to wait on certain items, which was on back order. And then for those who are in the hospitality industry, especially the hotel industry, you all know what the different hotel audits do. As far as Hilton has a QA, Marriott has I forget what it's called, but it's basically a QA inspection, making sure that you get all brand standards and everything's doing right. And if you have supposed to have certain certifications, you got those. If you're supposed to have certain trainings, you got those. So anyway, it was a lot. So we did my portion of the audit. And so my GM was like, you can go if you want to. You got to tell me twice. I got stuff to do. I got 3 podcast episodes I got to get done before 4 o'clock. I'm out. So here I am, y'all. Here I am. And it was just so much. My anxiety was gone. It was going up. And I had to do everything I could to take, to bring it back down. But I'm saying all this to say that, at some point during our busy lives and our busy week, even our busy day, we have to get into this habit of doing a mental health check, and it may not be a long mental health check, but every day we have to have a mental health check-in, because there's so much going on and there are so many people who are just losing the battle on this journey that's called life, and they're going crazy and they feel like they can't make it anymore. And I know certain words that you can't say on lives now because they take down the lives or flag it, but there are a lot of people unaliving themselves, because of simple mental health checks, whether it's surface level, whether it's in depth. It's important that we have to have these mental health checks, y'all. So one point I would like to make is you, the entirety of you, the inside of you, your spiritual well-being, your emotional well-being, your physical well-being, your mental well-being is far more important than the things that you invest your time into. And the reason why I say that is because in order for you to be a good employee, you have to be in good physical shape. You have to be in a good emotional shape. You have to be in a good mental shape. If you're looking at all the elements that make up your spiritual existence, you have the mind, the emotions, the spiritual, and the physical. And if neither one of those are in good shape, or if one or more of those are in a bad shape, then you're not going to successfully and effectively do whatever it is that you're doing as it pertains to your job. Same thing with the family. Same thing with your kids. Same thing with, being a friend. You have to make sure all of those aspects are where they need to be. And the thing about it is, we invest more time in other things and in other people than we do our own selves. So that's just like you helping somebody else build a house and keep their house maintained and up to date and make sure their house is all good, but your house is a rundown shack and you got leaks and stuff falling down and your wiring is bad and you're falling through your floors because you haven't taken the time to to invest into making you a better you. So this is what this topic is about. We just have to get into that habit of doing daily mental health checks, weekly mental health checks, monthly mental health checks, yearly mental health checks. We just gotta get in the habit of doing these things. Um, Mental health checks give us time to understand what is on the outside. Oh, understand whatever is that's on the outside matches what's on the inside. What do you mean by that? Well, I can sit here and smile all day long, walking down the street, going to work, going to family events, being that parent, being that spouse, being that whatever, and perpetuate that I'm this happy-go-lucky person and everything is going all right in the world. But on the inside, I'm lonely, I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm depressed, I'm hurt. So it does cause a problem when everything that's on the inside does not matches everything what's going on the outside. So we have to make sure that what's going on spiritually and emotionally and mentally is manifesting how we, walk on the outside. You know, it was one time where I was doing I was talking with an old friend of mine. We had just graduated high school, and he was saying to me, he was like, I always been jealous of you. I'm like, what? Little me? You're jealous of me? And he was like, I've always been jealous of you. And I'm like, why? Why? Because he didn't know that behind closed doors, my life was a mess. I'm still dealing with this depression thing. I'm still trying to figure life out. I'm 18, 19 years old and don't know what direction I want to go. I'm just like, my life is just all over the place. I have gotten anything accomplished that I wanted to get accomplished by the age of 20. So how can you sit up here and say that you're jealous of me when outside of what I'm a wreck? And so he always said, because even when we in school, or if I see you on Facebook or whatever, you're always smiling. You're always, perceiving a happy-go-lucky, everything is going right kind um, of mentality. And so he was like, and my life is just, it's not going the way I want it to go. And I explained to him, I said, look, don't you ever for a second think that my life is perfect. All right. Because the same stuff you're going through, I'm pretty sure if you wrote a list and I wrote a list, I'm pretty sure about 90% of that we're both going it together. As far as me always smiling and covering stuff up and this, that, and the third, I said the only thing that kept me going was my smile. And if I didn't have that smile, I would not be talking to you on the phone. I would have unalived myself a long time ago. And he was shocked. I'm like, yes, you're going through this thing called depression. So am I. You're going through this thing called acceptance. So am I. You're lost about how you want to, you don't know where you want to go as far as your adult life is concerned. You don't know what direction. You're confused. A lot of stuff is running through your head. So am I. I'm going through the same thing. So what you're going through is no different from what I'm going through. The only difference is two spiritual existences. It's two humans going through the same thing. That's the only difference. Just two different humans. So, and he understood. I'm like, don't ever think somebody's life is perfect, because 9 times out of 10 they might have some issues that they have to deal with, and it may not be affecting their lives now, but eventually it will. Um, Mental health checks give us the opportunity to acknowledge our feelings, our emotions, and our thoughts, right? Mental health check is not always your thinking process. It's more so of, it's also of how you feel, you know. And uh, a lot of us, when we do perform our mental health checks, we're always analyzing our thinking process. And little do we know that we have to go more in depth past the mind. Yes, the mind is the gateway, but you have what's on the outside of who you are, and then you have what's on the inside, and that gatekeeper is your mindset. That gatekeeper is your mind. That gatekeeper is your thoughts, and those are big influences on your emotions and your feelings. But we also have to understand, okay, if I'm thinking like this, why am I thinking like this? Because not only do our mind, we allow our minds to take in certain things or reject certain things, our emotions and our feelings, they really do, give back. If you say, if you know what I'm saying, like they really do. If I'm thinking something, it's going to manifest into an emotion or to a feeling, and then it projects back into my mind a thought. So the mind absorbs it, my emotions project a feeling or a thought back into my mind. So whatever my mind absorbs, and that's what my feelings and my emotions are going to project in the form of a thought. So now here I am, I'm thinking this, I'm thinking that, I'm thinking all these not so good things. But if I don't take the time to go deep past my mind, then I'm really not going to understand how to fix it. Right? I'm not going to understand how to fix it. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Help me understand what I need to do. The only thing you're going to do is acknowledge that you're depressed. The only thing that you're going to do is acknowledge that something is wrong, that you're hurt, that you're scared, that you're this, that you're that your anxiety is up. But if you do not take the time to assess why, let Matthew go into Matthew's thoughts, Matthew's emotions, Matthew's feelings, and analyze and try to figure out the root of why Matthew is feeling like this, and Matthew's mental health may not be where it needs to be. That's called putting in the work to making you a better you. It's not always peaches and cream. Sometimes you have to acknowledge the bad things in order to turn those things around and make those good things. All right. So then it reveals to us how to properly keep us grounded and in tune with the entirety of our individual selves. I'm going to read that again. It reveals to us how to properly keep us grounded. All right. Or some people say keep us sane. And in tune, meaning on the same page, with the entirety or the rest of our individual selves. So what do you mean? What I mean is I need to know what's causing me to be depressed. I need to know what's causing me, causing my anxiety to go up. I need to know what's causing me to feel down, to feel angry, to feel hurt. I need to know that if I wake up in the morning and I don't feel like I'm in a good place, I need to know why. I need to take the time to assess why I'm not feeling how I should feel. I should feel happy. I should feel joyful. I should feel optimistic and positive. But if I wake up in the morning and I'm not feeling this stuff, I need to know why. I need to take the time and say, okay, let's see. Now, this, and this happened, and then this happened. But that wouldn't cause, that would play a part, but that wouldn't cause me to feel how I'm feeling. Once you take that time to get down to the root, I'm telling y'all will understand why you're feeling the way you're feeling. Y'all understand why you're feeling the way you're feeling. And you also need to know how to go about it. So if you know that you have a bad case of anxiety, you need to figure out everything that causes your anxiety to go into full blast. You need to know on a scale of 1 to 10, what's causing my anxiety to go between that 7 and 10. That's what we have to understand. Because if we don't know that, then how can we fix it? If we don't know that, anxiety is going to be running rampant and running amok within us. So we have to understand, okay, so some people just got a bad case of anxiety. I had a bad case of anxiety. I don't like a lot of yelling. A lot of yelling that triggers my anxiety. It does. To this day, if it's a lot of like, not cheering, like, yay, team. No, I'm talking about anger yelling, frustration yelling, bad yelling. I'm looking and I'm like, okay, let me figure out how I'm going to dismiss myself from getting to a point where my anxiety is going up. So if somebody's yelling, how am I going to handle that when somebody's yelling? Hey, I'm going to need you to calm down because I don't operate when yelling is going back and forth. I'm going to need you to calm down because that yelling, that ain't how I roll. And you don't necessarily have to say, oh, because that's going to trigger my anxiety. No, it simply means, in order for you and I to have a conversation and work through this moment that's not so good, I'm going to need you to stop yelling because I'm not yelling. I'm talking rather calm. So I'm going to need you to come to me. And I'm going to need you to have a conversation with me without all the yelling because that's the only way this is going to get solved. Or if you, if certain sounds, we have this thing called post-traumatic stress disorder. And if they, and it happens a lot with people who have served overseas and they may have experienced being attacked by another country or another terrorist group. They have the traumatic stress, the post-traumatic stress disorder. So if they hear a balloon pop, they to them that's synonymous with the sound of a gun. Or if they hear something backfire, they think it's a gun. Or if they hear a loud boom, they think it's a bomb. So, and it triggers them to go into this episode, right? So what do? They go to therapy. They go to a psychiatrist. And they might not necessarily have give them medicine. Now, they're not always gonna give them medicine, but they're going to help them walk through how to control those episodes. And it's the same thing with anxiety. You know, uh, anxiety strikes very fast. And that's the most dangerous part about anxiety. It's not what causes it, it's that it strikes very, very fast. You know, when we talk about depression, we're talking about something that accumulates over a certain amount of time as a series of unfortunate events that has happened, that a person has endured, that may cause them to be stressed. Anxiety is fast. You know, it's fast. And in that moment that you're having that episode of anxiety, you're really not paying attention to what's causing it. So when you come back down from it and you calm your nerves a little bit, you're able to say, you know what? We're going to have to work on this. What causes my anxiety? Every time my anxiety went up, what happened? And the very things that happen, those are the very things you need to stay clear from. Some of it it's easy, some of it it's not. But you have to put in that effort to make that process, make that progress. Daily mental health checks, like I said earlier, guys, like we have to have that moment that we just ask, Matthew, are you okay? John, are you okay? Susie, are you okay? We have to ask ourselves, are we okay? Now, in this situation, it is perfectly fine to talk to yourself. You know, and some people say you could talk to yourself as long as you don't answer yourself, and then people gonna think you're crazy. No. When it comes down to my mental health, I'm going to check out of my normal everyday life for about 15 to 30 minutes. And I'm going to ask myself, Matthew, are you okay? How are you feeling today? How did you feel when this happened? How did you feel when that happened? How do you feel emotionally? How do you feel physically? And I expect me to answer back. I expect me to say, well, you know, Matthew, I was about to cuss that so-and-so out when she came in my office and said this. I got frustrated when my boss did this instead of doing this. Now I'm okay in this part, but over here I don't feel so good. My feet hurt. You need to be in tune with the rest of you. Your mind needs to be in tune with your emotions, your spirit, and your body. Your body needs to be in tune with the other three elements. Your emotions need to be tuned with the other three elements. Like all of those have to be in tune, because when one is off, when one is not in tune with the rest, you can't properly function as a whole. Number one. And number two, if you acknowledge it, you can give the rest of those elements the time to help that element that's not so there recover. Right? It's called acknowledging and being in tune with the rest of you. And that's why a lot of us, we have these mental health breakdowns. You know, yeah, to a certain extent, it is some kind of a chemical imbalance. I do agree with scientists on that. However, stuff happens before the body manifests a chemical imbalance, right? Like you just don't get depressed out of nowhere. There's a reason why you're depressed. Your anxiety doesn't shoot up out of nowhere. There's a reason why your anxiety is shooting up. You just don't get angry out of nowhere. There's a reason why you're angry. But what we naturally do, we naturally look on how the body manifests. You know, so if there is a chemical imbalance of the brain, okay, that's not good. But we also need to know not only how to treat that chemical imbalance, but also figure out what's going on before that, what led up to the manifestation of, this depression that came in the form of a chemical imbalance that caused the depression. Like, what spiritually happened, what emotionally happened, what mentally happened. What are the unfortunate events that took place, or what am I as the you or the individual? What am I absorbing from my atmosphere? Is my atmosphere even where I need to be? And I remember it was an episode, if I'm not mistaken, it was episode 2 of the podcast where I talked about that atmosphere. That atmosphere also, if our atmosphere is not where it needs to be, that also triggers the bad things in our mental health. It also triggers a lot. So it's like, what are you absorbing from your atmosphere, and what are you allowing to be dwelling in your atmosphere? Maybe you need to clean that up a little bit. Maybe you'll feel better. But it's a lot more than just the scientific explanation of depression. It's a lot more past that. I do agree with it, but it's a lot more past that. And we have to, yes, treat the physical part of it, but we also need to treat the spiritual and emotional part of it. So every day you just need to at least take 30 minutes to an hour just to check on you and relax yourself. Now, I understand. Don't get me wrong. I understand a lot of us, we have some busy lives. We work 8 to 10 hours a day. Some of us 12. Then we got to go. We got to come home, cook dinner, help the kids with the homework. May have to walk the dog. You got to cook dinner. Got to put the kids in the tub. Make sure their homework is right. Make sure they in bed on time. For those who married, then you got to spend a little adult time, a little intimate time, not always sexual, but a little intimate time with the spouse. Then you got to wake up and do it all over again. I'm telling you, it is okay to check out of your normal everyday life for about an hour, at least an hour, to make sure that you're sane in your head, to make sure that you're in tune with the rest of you, to make sure that you're okay. Because if you don't take that time, you're not going to be that good spouse. You're not going to be that good parent. You're not going to be that good friend or that good coworker. You're not going to be that good employee. Why? Because it's too much breaking down. You're not balanced. Everything is not on the same page. So we got to make sure we at least take that hour. And one thing, before we wrap up, I would just want to say this. Now, certain communities, certain religions, certain cultures demonize therapy. They demonize therapy. If you need therapy, that's an attack of the enemy. If you need therapy, that means, you just got some demons in you. Every time something goes wrong in somebody's life does not mean that they have a demon in them. Here's how you know, and everybody may not believe in a demon, but here's how you know when somebody's demonic, excluding them climbing up walls and their heads turn around. Here's how you know. Number one, the devil has no power on the face of this planet. He may have an influence on how people think. He may throw a monkey wrench every now and then, but he has no power. All right. I understand there's demonic forces. I even know if I'm believing in the God I serve, I understand that with the good I believe, I also got to be aware of the bad. All right. I know that there's demonic forces, but we gotta really, really dig deep into that because sometimes these demonic forces ain't what people think they are, and they start demonizing everything. Just because somebody, you know, wants to go to therapy does not mean that they're full of demons. It just means, see, here's the thing. If that person was full of demons, do you honestly think that that person will make an effort to try to go and see what's wrong so they can fix themselves? So if I feel down and out, if I feel gloomy, and some ain't right up in here, and I'm taking the steps to go to the therapist to see what's going on, do you honestly think that that's a demon? Demons don't want you to get better. I'm making an effort to make me a better me. I'm making an effort and putting in the time and the work to figure out what's going on. Demons don't want you to do that. Demons want you to think that it's okay to feel the way that you're feeling. And whatever that bad part is in your life, demons want you to think that it's okay to stay there. That ain't no demon. If you wake up in the morning and you ain't feeling you and you go to a psychiatrist or a therapist to try to fix how you thinking and how you feeling, that's not a demon. That's an acknowledgement. That's God saying, that ain't you. And I want you to be in tune with you. And I want you to be great. And I want you to fix you. So if that means that you're sitting on that couch for an hour a day or an hour every week, then so be it. God has called the therapists and the psychiatrists just like God called the pastors and the bishops and all those people. We need to stop demonizing stuff that's just gonna help us. Okay. Anybody that's making an effort to be, to be great and explore more into their mind and into their feelings and fix what's not right, that's not a demon. That's doing exactly what God wants them to do. All right. Stop. We got to stop demonizing just because we feel, oh, no, 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 no. You shouldn't think like that. You should think, duh. You're absolutely right. I shouldn't think like that. That's why I'm going to a therapist. That's why I'm going to a psychiatrist. It's not a demon. Oh, you should talk to God. Sometimes the answers that God wants to give us come in forms of the therapists and the psychiatrists and stuff. Believe it or not. Believe it or not. Some people are not there yet to take the time and really just have direct spiritual conversations with God. Some people ain't there yet. So you know what God did? God called people to be therapists. God called people to be psychiatrists. That's what God, stop demonizing stuff. And I'm going to get on that. That's going to be a whole nother episode. But we just got to stop demonizing. We got to stop demonizing therapy. Because a lot of people don't know how to express. A lot of people don't know how to open up their mouths and talk, or they don't feel comfortable. That's why we have these people. There's a variety of ways. What my mom always just says, 1,000 ways to skin a cat. There's 1,000 ways to get somebody to understand what they need to work on within themselves. Sometimes it is that therapy. A lot of times it's that mental health check. And we got to make sure we're doing this mental health check. So now, and like I said, this is only the first part. It's I got 2 other parts, but we got to make sure that we're doing what we need to do as far as our mental health, right? I appreciate each and every one of you for coming in to another episode of Tapping Into Life podcast. All right. I am making a dedication to keep this under an hour because I do talk too much, and I'm okay with that. I hope each and every one of you enjoyed. I hope each and every one of you have gotten something out of this and most important, begin to have mental health checks more often than just every quarter or every time you need a vacation. All right. I appreciate each and every one of you. Until next time, I love you all and see you then.